Welcome to PT Podcast with Eric, Session 7. I hope you all are having a great start to the week. Our first question is with Tyrone. How should I approach my goal of 50 chin-ups? At the moment, I can do 15 clean reps when I am fresh. Firstly, I replied to Tyrone's question and I said, thanks Tyrone, I'll be able to clarify the difference. However, can you please tell me whether it is a chin-up or a pull-up? A lot of misconceptions are raised regarding these two movements, and so when I asked him further to the question, he clarified that it's over thumb grip, so that means it would be a pull-up. Okay, so a chin-up is when you're using an underhand grip and you're basically trying to raise your chin to the bar. Now, it is a movement where you'll be able to raise much higher, closer to the bar. It is a lot easier because you're using more of the bicep muscles as opposed to more your posterior chain or your back muscles. So it is what we call predominantly an anterior chain movement, whereas an overhand grip is then what utilizes more the back muscles if it's done correctly, and that would be a pull-up. Now, quite interesting, we see with a lot of our clients, they do pull-ups or chin-ups, and they realize when they get to the top, they seem to curve their spine in a way that their knees pretty much tuck under the bar. Now, that is using all of the front of your body, and it really defeats the whole purpose of the movement, which is a back predominantly driven movement. Now, with Tyrone's question, he's doing 15 clean reps, which is excellent. So if he's able to get his chest to the bar for 15 repetitions, he is well on his way to achieve 50 pull-ups in this case. Now, it is a very difficult movement, so it's repetition is the mother of all skill when it comes to achieving such a high repetition for a gymnastics or an aerial movement. So the main thing I would highly recommend for you, Tyrone, is to maintain mobility. So we need to maintain good flexibility in your latissimus dorsi or your lat muscles, also particularly in your tricep muscles. Now, a lot of the times when we're trying to achieve 50 pull-ups, it is not necessarily the back muscles that fatigue, but rather your grip. So it is something that you need to condition over time. Is there a fast-tracking way to increase grip strength? That is a very difficult one to determine because it depends how much you use with the barbell, whether it is in a clean or a deadlift movement, which is from a floor movement, or whether it is actually in the air where you're pulling your body up to the bar. So either or, it is trying to improve your grip strength. You may also try to alter your actual grip. You may try to use a hook grip where you tuck your thumb under the bar and then rip it around your actual fingers so it overlaps each other. So that is another way, but on a pull-up bar it's very difficult because it's quite a thickened bar. So I would say continue with the movements. Try not to overtrain this particular movement because of the difficulty of it and the amount of strain on the triceps and lat muscles. And also, if we were to see your technique, I do question whether you're tucking under in terms of your legs under the bar when you get to the top, when you start fatiguing, because then that defeats the whole purpose of the actual pull-up. So regardless, if you're doing 15 clean reps, that is tremendous. I would also suggest that you may choose to go with weighted pull-ups, where you get a weight belt or with a chain and you wrap a 20 kilo bar around that, and then you do pull-ups that way. So it's a way of increasing the strength component of the movement, and then over time you want to increase the repetition so it becomes an endurance-based movement. So you need to, just like any other strength program, you need to vary it up and have sort of a periodization program that accompanies it. And it's great to see that it is for a pull-up. Now, we can do this same principle, whether it's the deadlift and we want to increase the volume of our deadlift, whether it's a squat or a lunge, whether it's even a bench press and we want to increase our repetitions. Either way, time is the essence, and patience and also dedication with clean form and prevent injury along the way. Our next question is from Calliope. what do you think about functional movements only in a program, and how far do you think the benefits will take you? And also if you need to go into more specific training such as hypertrophy programs once the body plateaus. So very good question in the sense that functional movement and in a specific program. So when we're looking at sports specificity, we need to understand what is the goal or what's the purpose of these functional movements. Before we can work out functionality, we must work mobility first and foremost. And prior to that, we must work flexibility. And then once we establish that, then we can work on balance and coordination and proprioception. And it is only then we start to move into functionality, because we're trying to hit all the different planes of movement in a hybrid model. And that's the whole purpose of functionality, so that we can use these movements in any way possible so we can survive longer as a species, and also to maintain a healthy lifestyle and to prevent injury really at the end of the day. So a hypertrophy program, on the other hand, is to build muscle mass. Okay, so we want to do micro tears of the muscles in a safe manner, and then we have a response in the sense that the body will replenish itself and rebuild these muscle fibers, and in turn grow and build muscle mass. So you can actually build muscle mass with functional movements. However, there is a progression in the way we do things, and it is always good to adapt functionality before we then go into the specificity of hypertrophy training, because it is an increased load on the body and so on. If we continue functional movements for a long period of time, will we over time sort of lose muscle mass, or will we lose that ability to perform hypertrophy or build that muscle over time? And it really depends whether it is performed with load. So if you're only using functional movements with your own body weight, I think over time you will get a law of diminishing returns, unless you're increasing the intensity or the volume of what you're doing in real extreme cases. So you're doing a lot of calisthenics, or you're hanging off bars and things like that, which do require a lot of load or a lot of strength on the muscular tendinous body. However, if you do functional movements with a load, and you'll tend to find a lot of yoga movements these days are implementing resistance training in the sense with dumbbells and with bands and pulleys and so on, you can still maintain great muscle mass or build muscle mass at the same time. And you actually do create a real complete looking physique at the same time. However, if you're trying to get to a certain level where you want to build a great amount of muscle through hypertrophy training, you do need to eventually become someone who focuses or conducts specific exercises in this manner. So your simple bench presses, your simple lat pull downs, your deadlifts, your squats, your lat pull downs, and so on. So I can understand where you're going with this question in terms of, will it eventually create a law of diminishing returns? Will you plateau? And the answer would be yes, depending on how creative you are and what stimuli you add to that functionality. And then over time, you will reach a point where you would need to go into sports specificity and focus on simply a hypertrophy program. Our next question is from Jessica. How many calories should I aim to burn in a full body workout when training both cardio and strength? A very good question, and there's a lot of science that we can go into this in the sense that what actually are the determinants to work out or calculate how many calories you actually burn. So if you're wearing a heart rate monitor of some sort, there's many out on the market at the moment, how does it actually calculate how many calories you burn? The best way is working out your basal metabolic rate. So using your height, your age, your weight, and your sex as well. They are determinants, and then that will determine the length of time that you participated in that exercise. And you can do the science of it and calculate it that way, or you can actually go by generic type of, I suppose, an experience. So we have found in training our clients over, 17 years or so, you tend to work out a general ballpark figure as to how many calories someone will burn based on their body type, but also the type of exercise that they perform. Your question is very good in the sense that you want to combine cardiovascular training and strength training. And as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, that is the best way to burn the most amount of calories and also to achieve the fastest results. That's why things like HIIT training is very good, because it is a high intensity cardio program and you've increased your resistance on top of that in terms of running up a hill and so on, or running with some sort of a weighted vest and so on, which is the added load onto the body. So we tend to find, if I was training a client for a 45-minute session, and it was your typical bodybuilding training session where you picked a particular body part and you had one supplementary body part as well. So let's say in this case we did a back and bicep exercise or training session. Now, let's say we did a lat pull down, a bent over row, and a dumbbell row, and possibly a deadlift in that movement or some form of hyperextensions. And in your bicep exercise, we did a seated preacher curl and a dumbbell bicep curl and a standing cable curl. Okay, so there's a number of exercises there, and also your repetition range and your number of sets are determinants of your amount of calories burned as well. So once you work out your type of workload, we tend to find in a program like that, you would burn around 550 calories. So you haven't performed any cardio in that sense, but in a ballpark figure. What we tend to find, if you're a client new to the exercise game and you've done a 45 to a minute PT session, which is a hybrid model that has a combination of some cardio and some strength and so on, and also the ability to converse with your trainer throughout the session, you tend to burn around 450 calories. If it's a high intensity training session, and there is a predominantly 20 to 30 minutes worth of cardio intertwined in your 45 to 1 hour training session, you're moving up to that 550 to 700 caloric range. Now, we've had some clients that have burned much higher than that, but they're focusing at a very high threshold as well. But our ballpark figure is anything between 450 and 650 is a very good PT session with our clients. And our final question is with Conrad. Hi, Eric. Another bodybuilding question. When I first started going to the gym, I researched how key vitamins such as A, E, B, B3, B12, D, and C play a crucial role in building muscle. However, buying all these vitamins costs a lot of money. Am I wasting my money buying these vitamins, or are they needed, especially as I train in the morning or on an empty stomach? So first and foremost, Conrad, the question is, how intense are you training? What's your work-life balance in terms of, do you go do a big training session in the morning and then you have to back it up with a big day at work, whether it's on a job site or in the office? So there's some variables that we need to consider as well. And also your diet, and if there's any hereditary background regarding any, vitamin deficiencies and so on. But on the flip side of that, you must also be careful, because you can go through vitaminosis, where you are overloading on a particular vitamin. So that is also the risk as well in terms of liver damage and on the flip side. Now, the vitamins that you mentioned there, we need to distinguish between fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins, okay? So that basically means a water-soluble vitamin will dissolve within your mouth immediately, or start that process as soon as you go through it goes through your salivary glands. And they obviously dissolve a lot faster. Your fat-soluble vitamins have to go down into the stomach, and can also go down into the small intestine in order for them to be digested. So they obviously take a lot longer, and they are enteric coated. So they have a coating that goes around the vitamins. Now, the fact that you're taking all these vitamins on an empty stomach is something that I would definitely question. You've really got no food in your stomach, nothing to really help you absorb the vitamins to go with you. So I would think that may affect your stomach lining. It may be something to just consider, or maybe get secondary advice from your GP or from a practicing allied health professionals such as an APD or accredited practicing dietitian. So the vitamin C is one of those generic vitamins where, you know, it's just good for health and well-being. It's good for the prevention of obtaining the flu and so on. But then you can also get vitamin C from, you know, the foods that you eat as well, and your typical one is your orange juices. So that is something that is generally recommended on the market. But it depends once again on your diet, and also if you're quite prone to getting sick, or if you're in the outdoors quite a lot, especially in the lead up to winter and so on. Your vitamin B numbers are pretty much for your mental acuity and your ability to think and to concentrate. So if you're in a very high powered job where you have to continually think, or you're in a job that requires a lot of skill and may influence the safety of others, then that's why you would consider your vitamin B. In your vitamin D, on the flip side, that tends to be more of a genetic thing or a hereditary background in terms of, are you absorbing vitamin D, which then does affect your bone density and so on. Your vitamin E, on the other hand, is commonly used for vitamin E cream, so it's very good for your skin. But on the other hand, foods such as, you know, your avocados, your cooked spinach, good pine nuts and mustard type greens and almonds, they're really good with vitamin E oils and nutrients and so on. So that's something that you could possibly substitute rather than taking, you know, a supplement in that sense. So overall, Conrad, it's a very good question, because I think we overprescribe, and it is a market that is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I think we become conditioned to think that we should take some form of a supplement as opposed to obtaining real food in the first place. I suppose I was one of those people, in the sense that I was training at very high intensity over long periods of time, competing and so on. So therefore, I was, you know, consuming a large amount of vitamins in that sense, because my body did demand of it. But as my training has changed over time, I have reduced my supplementation tremendously, and I focus solely on whole foods and to provide me with my nutrients and my vitamins. So you need to also understand how much of it are you actually absorbing in your bloodstream, and how much of it are you actually urinating out of the body as well. And you did mention the whole idea regarding are you wasting your money buying all these vitamins? So, you know, a budget has a large factor in this as well, and it depends on what your financial situation is. I can only speak from experience, and over time, the demands of my body have no longer required that amount of vitamins that I was taking of the past, simply because my workload is very different, and my stresses on my body are very different. So I rather substitute that with good nutrition. So I do ask you to, you know, sit back and reflect on, you know, whether you need all these supplements. You can also cycle them through. I do highly recommend that over, you know, a 3 to 4 week period, you might take 3 or 4 days, or possibly a week, and you know, basically deload on your supplements and your vitamins as well, and see whether it does affect you. Now, you won't really understand or feel the difference unless it is over a 2 week period. So it's very hard to say over 3 or 4 days, wow, these supplements didn't really do anything to my body and they are a placebo. You need to try it over a certain period of time to really understand. But I wouldn't say stop them, you know, totally, and then don't substitute that with good nutrition. So you must be doing the same together. But I wish you all the best in making your decision on what you decide to do. And that wraps up our PT podcast with Eric for session 7. I would like you to stay tuned to next week's podcast. It's going to be a special edition in the sense that I've been sitting down with a lot of clients of late. I think it's because it's the start of the year, and we've been focusing on a life coaching type, approach to exercise and work-life balance and so on. And that has driven me to write a blog article on, how we apply at PT National and the Fitness Embassy, how we apply periodization programming and the principles behind that to assist our clients achieve work-life balance, and also to basically be efficient and work at peak performance, but also have recovery sessions and enjoy what they do, prevent injuries, and also lose weight at the same time. And I've never thought to have a special edition. I like actually answering people's questions, but I think it's really important as to what I'm going to say in our next session, and hopefully that will help you understand the science behind and how creative you can actually be in creating training programs or working with your exercise, and also with your workload at work or any hobbies and so on, so that you don't burn out and that you can achieve great results. So stay tuned to next week's session, and also for our blog article that will be posted this week. So thank you to our questions. Keep them coming. I really enjoy the variety, as I always state, and it really has a good approach to where we are going, in the sense that we're focusing in this week on functional movements, calories burned, and also achieving high volume or endurance in a strength movement such as a pull-up, as long as it is done safely and correctly. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful week.